Madam President.
The Majority Leader.
Yes, for the information of members, I have a brief statement. I have some good news. We've reached an agreement on an extension of the debt ceiling through early September, and it's our hope that we can get this done today. What did I say? Oh, Jesus. September's passed already. Let me revise my statement. Madam President, we have reached agreement to extend the debt ceiling through early December, and it's our hope that we can get this done as soon as today. I yield the floor.
On 3 different debt limit scenarios, since there's so many developing. So off the top, Senator Mitch McConnell has proposed for Republicans to either support a short-term hike in the debt limit through December, or to support a expedited reconciliation process where Democrats would vote to hike it long-term. What's the White House response to that? Is there support for either of those from the president? And then, somebody get clarification on something the president said yesterday. He seemed to suggest that he would support a carve-out in the filibuster, if all else fails, to hike the debt limit. Is that where he stands? Would you be open to that?
Well, right now, and perhaps this is the awkwardness of 4:15, while people are still meeting on the Hill, right now Democratic members are meeting on the Hill to discuss options on the path forward. I think Republican members may also be meeting or discussing among themselves. My understanding at the point I walked out here is that there's been no formal offer made. A press release is not a formal offer. And regardless, even the scanned details that have been reported present more complicated, more difficult options than the one that is quite obvious in the president's view, and it's in front of the faces of every member up on the Hill. We could get this done today. We don't need to kick the can. We don't need to go through a cumbersome process that every day brings additional risks. So they're discussing up there. We'll obviously be in close touch with them, as we will continue to be, and we'll see where we are at the end of today.
Held another round of extensive talks with top officials from the White House, with the Speaker, and with my Senate colleagues. We made good progress, and we continue our talks later this week. There is more work to do, and so we are going to keep at it. We're going to work at this every day until we can get it done. I want to thank my colleagues, the Speaker and the White House, for everything they're doing to finalize this important bill. It's a rare opportunity to do something big for the American people, and we will press ahead until we pass both the bipartisan infrastructure bill and our Build Back agenda into law. Now on the debt ceiling. Last night, as you know, Mr. President, I filed cloture on legislation sent to us by the House of Representatives that provides for a suspension of the debt ceiling until December of 2022. The Senate is going to hold that vote tomorrow, and once again, the members of this body will face a choice. We can bring this Republican-manufactured debt ceiling crisis to a swift end, or Republicans can keep barreling our country ever closer to the first default in American history. By now, it's perfectly clear which political party is working to prevent a default on the debt and which party is deliberately and almost cynically rooting for one. Republicans have been offered multiple opportunities to de-escalate this crisis they've created, yet each time the Republican leader has chosen to magnify it instead. Last week, Democrats offered a common-sense proposal that would have addressed the debt ceiling on a bipartisan basis. Republicans voted instead to default. Democrats then offered Republicans what the Republican leaders said they've wanted by proposing a simple majority vote, exactly what happened in the early 2000s. And again, Republicans blocked it in favor of default. By now, it's clear that despite what they say, Republicans seem intent on seeing the U.S. miss out on its payments for the first time ever. They seem perfectly at ease telling the American people, including our active military, our Social Security recipients, and all those who rely on Medicare, that they are unequivocally the party of default. The Republicans are unequivocally the party of default, and some of them seem to be proud of it. It's hard to believe that one of America's 2 major parties would be willing to jeopardize our entire economy and irrevocably damage our standing throughout the world, just because they don't like that the party that won the election is following through on its agenda to help American families. But that's what's exactly going on here. Now, to be clear, let's be very clear, Tomorrow's vote is simply a cloture vote. It is not a vote to raise the debt ceiling. It's rather a procedural step to let Democrats raise the debt ceiling on our own, just as Republicans have called for. Let me say that again so all my Republican colleagues can hear it and the American people can hear it loud and clear. Tomorrow's vote is simply a cloture vote. Tomorrow's vote is not a vote to raise the debt ceiling. It's rather a procedural step to let Democrats raise the debt ceiling on our own. We're telling Republicans, we're not asking you to vote for it. Just let us vote for it. And that's what you've called for. That's what Leader McConnell has called for on countless occasions from July on. As recently as yesterday, the Republican leader pointed to episodes in 2004 and 2006, while the majority raised the debt ceiling, while the minority voted against it. As happened then, the minority party can just get out of the way and let the majority supply the votes. Tomorrow's vote, then, is a chance for Republican senators to show that they don't have to link arm in arm with those extreme members of their conference running for president. They have a chance to show that they're still responsible. It's not too late, but it's getting dangerously close. As I said yesterday, this chamber must send President Biden legislation to raise the debt ceiling before the end of the week. We do not have the luxury of using a drawn-out, convoluted, and risky process. We can resolve the debt ceiling crisis this week and reassure the world that the full faith and credit of the United States will never be in question. Democrats are going to do the responsible thing tomorrow and vote yes to prevent a default. There's still time for Republicans to get out of the way and allow this bill to pass with a simple majority vote. If Republicans want to vote no tomorrow, if they really want to be the party of default, that's their choice. Now on voting rights. Mr. President, despite all we must do in the coming weeks, Senate Democrats remain strongly committed to advancing legislation in this chamber to protect the most precious right in our democracy, the right to vote. Later today, my friend, the senator from Vermont, Senator Leahy, will introduce the new John Lewis Voting Advancement Act. I am a co-sponsor, and it is my intention in the coming weeks for the Senate to hold a vote on this bill. As a complement to the Freedom to Vote Act, Senator Leahy's bill would restore some of the most critical safeguards of the original Voting Rights Act, gutted by the Supreme Court's conservative majority in 2013.